So yeah,
$2,000?
XRP expert predicts $2,000 by 2026. Now, $2,000 is not going to be easy, and I'm going to be explaining you guys. Jake Claver has been calling for $2,000 XRP and how it could happen in theory, right? But this is a very, very big question a lot of people have. Will XRP ever reach $2,000? And it's going to be hard because we're now pushing for $4. Especially by the end of the year, they're calling for insane numbers like $1,000 and we can retire forever. The good news here is crypto has really seen some amazing gains. And with these type of amazing gains, you can also see XRP go up that much.
To hear for the people out there who are like, Jake, let's go January 1st, 2026. Where do we think XRP could be and how do we get there?
If all of the events and catalysts play out in the time frame that I think that they will, $1,500, $2,000 XRP. And I know that sounds crazy, and that's fair.
Okay, so
$15,000, like $1,500 for XRP would basically mean it's one of the biggest assets in the world. Even to hit $15, that would be Bitcoin's price right now. So this would be more than the US dollar. So people would be using XRP for the US dollar. This is why I don't think, it is possible, but I'm definitely not underestimating his situation because he was correct on a lot of these oil crashes.
what are we talking about here? I did a video on this already, but just to catch you up if you didn't watch that video, Jake believes these events will happen in the next few months and this will cause XRP's price to go to $1,000 to $2,000. Unwinding of the reverse carry trade, Claver's view is he sees a major liquidity shift in global reserve carry trades unwind, moving capital from traditional markets into digital assets like XRP. This could occur in periods of intense macro volatility or monetary policy shifts.
So yeah, they're saying like that because the US dollar will be so weak, they will start using crypto. The US government will suddenly announce. Like this is not 20 to 30%. This is probably less than 0.001%. This is not a 30% chance of happening. This is like basically the US government taking crypto, if I understand correctly, taking crypto and making it into a digital asset is less than 1%, way less than 1% for this to happen. And the only time we had a digital tender is in another country for Bitcoin. That wasn't even for XRP. XRP is at very early stages of development and can't handle this type of transfers.
As rate changes and such, the probability of this happening is 20 to 30%. Of course,
and then he says also that Tether failing would be good for XRP. But the issue is Tether has, I respect Jake, the issue is here. Tether has, a lot of fail-safe that it won't crash. The second thing is a lot of exchanges own Tether. So if Tether goes down, so the other exchanges, right? So does the entire crypto market. And the third thing, why would people buy XRP if they won't have any money to buy crypto? Because all their stablecoins will be gone.
Of course, he believes that there was going to be some extra scrutiny put on Tether and that will cause Tether and Bitcoin to kind of collapse. Claver's view, if U.S. agencies...
So he's basically calling about a big reset that is gonna, crash crypto. But we saw this big reset in 2022. And when we saw this big reset with Terra Luna Classic, we didn't see Terra Luna Classic roll back stronger. We saw the crypto crash even further. When we saw these exchanges go down, the Black Swan events, we literally saw the prices go down. Now they are back up, but they are not back up because crypto rebuilt itself. They're back up because the economy is improving, because the country is more productive. So this is the real reason why I don't think this will ever happen. I feel I'm very vocal. If the crypto economy crashes, if Bitcoin crashes, so will other cryptos.
Launch coordinated action potentially under the Genius Act against Tether. It could trigger panic in the stablecoin ecosystem. He speculates that a loss of confidence in USDT might lead investors to XRP as a safe haven. He also kind of mentions, since Tether does kind of prop up Bitcoin's price, that if Tether wasn't able to do that anymore, people would be going out of Bitcoin and into XRP. Regulatory clarity for XRP, this is something that we already got. I don't really need to get into this with you. The SEC dropped their cross appeal. Now it's all, we're waiting for the ETFs to be approved. We're getting an update in mid to late August.
This is definitely not going to happen. They won't just start using Tether, XRP dollars, because they are like Tether still built up this over many, many years, all these partnerships, and all these big exchanges are using Tether. They're not using XRP dollars. They're made for banks and payment processing. To hit like the size you have with Tether right now, like transferring $1-2 billion with ease, is going to be way harder.
Mid to late October, I do apologize. I think it's 18th, 19th, and 20th. We should get some information from the SEC about specific spot XRP ETFs. XRP becoming the global reserve currency, or global bridge currency, excuse me. Claver's view is he positions that XRP will serve as the world's bridge currency, facilitating cross-border payments and institutional scale settlements. This implies adoption by banks and governments at scale that we've never seen before. This is a very low probability, less than 5%.
This is less than 0.01%. Global bridge currency, reserve bridge. Again, that would mean that we could be seeing, instead of gold, this would be XRP. Like the treasuries, like hold gold, they would hold XRP. Why wouldn't they hold Bitcoin, for example?
Less than 5%. Supply shock, this is something that I do believe we could see. Claver's view, institutional and enterprise adoption combined with utility-driven demand payments and financial protocols creates an XRP shock supply if banks and governments start using XRP.
This could definitely happen, but it wouldn't pump it to, $1,000, $2,000. I think 15 to 25%. I feel like we're going to get a supply shock for XRP at some point, but right now the biggest problem is there is still a lot of supply of XRP. So you're not going to see this anytime soon. And if we see a supply shock, it's going to be like $15.
XRP for settlement, demand could far outstrip the available supply. Now, I did a deep dive on how much XRP is really left on exchanges. There's only about 8 to 9% of XRP available. Most XRP, especially over the last few months, has been taken off of these exchanges.
So you can buy all of the 9%. The issue is, if you buy all of the 9%, either more will be added by the exchanges or people wanting to sell. Like, exchanges still hold their own XRP from the fees. So that's another factor that you guys have to consider. Even if you buy like 12%, there's going to be people like, whoa, exchanges have none. Well, let me just offer it to everyone else. And then the price will immediately pump to $20. These are way harder scenarios. Never has it happened that Bitcoin has basically been sold out on all exchanges. Never have we seen Bitcoin being sold out
at an alarming pace. And so if we woke up tomorrow and more companies are getting into treasuries and they want to give this demand for XRP, we could see a massive supply shock. Also, all of the spot ETFs, they're going to need to supply those ETFs with actual XRP. Buying that off the open market would create an enormous inflow. There's people like the CEO of Canary Capital that thinks in the first few weeks we could see up to $5 billion come into XRP. Now, we do know by looking at the inflows and outflows of XRP, getting that fresh inflow, we could see an up to 500x market cap multiplier on that value. So just to give you an understanding, 5 billion at a 500x multiplier would bring us to a $2.5 trillion market cap for XRP, bringing us well into the multiple digits here. In order to get to $1,000 or $2,000, you're talking about a 50 trillion or a $100 trillion market cap for XRP to get to those levels. And he also sees some...
That's going to be very hard. Again, we're trying to reach for $4, not like 20 at first. Now we're trying to go for 1,000.
Geopolitical crisis and liquidity events.
We need to exceed 59 trillion. So basically double the value of gold, which isn't that crazy. Double value gold, but more than the US stock market itself. So I guess more than the US dollar, double value the gold, and more than the US stock market itself. I feel like all of these combined,
macro,
that's going to be impossible unless we get token burns.
Instability, Middle East conflicts, and global recession could drive institutions towards crypto assets as alternative stores of value. XRP's settlement speed and network resilience might attract capital inflows in times of crisis. Listen, guys, I really, really want this to be true, but I don't know if Jake's doing this for the views, for the clicks, for the notoriety, for the clout. People believe Jake has NDAs and he knows things that a lot of other people don't, and this is why a lot of people are putting faith into his predictions. I just want to caution and warn you that these predictions are kind of insane, and it would take some really crazy shit to happen in order to get to these prices. Just please take that with a grain of salt. I would love to see XRP reach $1,000 or $2,000.
That would be nice.
Done. I could just check out for the rest of my life. I could play video games on the couch if I wanted to. No, I would miss this too much. I would miss you guys too much. But seriously, like, we all would be able to retire in those places. So I want that more than anything. I just, like, how we get there, I think we take a different path. And I just get a little nervous when we're talking about ridiculous prices in 5 months, because we already have all this BS from Bitcoin maxis, ETH maxis, now Chainlink is now, starting to fight us too. And this kind of makes us look silly in a way, right? It's like saying Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million tomorrow. Obviously, we know it's not going to go to $1 million tomorrow, but Bitcoin could go to $1 million over the next few years. I'll leave that with what you will. Luke,
it's not going to happen overnight. Like, if we want to see XRP at $20, I don't feel like it's going to be this cycle.
Judges created this new XRPL real world asset headquarters, real-time real world asset stablecoin analytics. Watch TradeFi on chain. There's a lot of really cool information on this. I'm gonna leave this down in the description if you guys.
This looks nice. You can actually check where they are located, like XRP.
I just want to jump on and play with it and let me know what you think. I think this is really, really cool. I also wanted to take a look at some data, right? Because one of Jake's predictions here was that, institution global bridge currency. So I just want to do an update on kind of, RippleNet partners and institutions and markets, and just to give you some actual hard data and facts here. RippleNet connects to over 100 financial institutions globally, including some of the world's largest banks and payment processors like Santander, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, Kotak, Mahindra Bank, Itu, Umbanco, SEB, SBI Remit, Siam Bank, Commercial Bank, and more. Ripple's payment network covers 90 markets, representing over 90% of the daily foreign exchange.
So yeah, Ripple is in a good place right now. 100 partnerships is good, but if they want to reach ways of $100 XRP, they'll probably need over 1,000. So yeah, probably 10 times more. And most of that will have to be from token burns as well.
Exchange markets, we know FX is 7.5 trillion a day, about 7.5 million transactions of $1 million on average. Banks and institutions would also save like billions and billions of dollars per year using XRP over the current system. And so I do believe there's a play here to be made. Ripple's partnerships now reach nearly 20 million merchants in Southeast Asia through payment service collaborations like Aeon Pay, and have expansion plans in Africa, Latin America, and emerging regions. Remember, Ripple.
The one advantage Ripple has over any other company is that it is growing everywhere, not just USA. Too many focus on just one country. That's a mistake in my opinion. If you focus worldwide, if you have the assets, then you could go do it because it pays off. It paid off for Ripple.
Just bought Rail for $200 million. They cover about 10% of the global's business-to-business stablecoin payments. Scott Bessent, the Treasurer of the United States, says stablecoins will go to the multiple trillions over the next few years. Ripple hopes to capture a lot of that business. Remember, it is now a race and a competition to who can gobble up all of the infrastructure for this new financial system.
Ripple already started building since 2015, so I'm not too worried about that anyway.
He who holds the keys holds the power. And then you also have Ripple solutions like Xcur and Xrapid via when integrations allow banks and providers to link their own systems for instant payments, enabling true interoperability across different payment channels, legacy rails, and blockchain-powered networks. Some central banks like the Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, Saudi Central Bank, and Bank of Thailand, and major corporates like American Express and Bank of America have deployed or piloted Ripple-powered payment solutions. Also, hundreds of integrated banks, remittance services, and payment providers, dozens of country-specific payment rails and corridors, tens of millions of end merchants via enabled stablecoin and crypto payment solutions, and of course, access covering 90 plus global.
So yeah, tens of millions of ends of merchants via embedded stablecoins. So what XRP Ripple is missing right now is just one key thing. Is like people who would use RippleNet, people who would use XRP. It's in very early stages, and where can they get this community is from the banks itself. They're waiting for that. They have the product already. It's not fully finished yet. I feel like it's 70% finished. Nobody knows for sure. I'm just speculating. But the most important factor here is they have the partnerships. They have the product. All they need now is people who will use Ripple. And they will use it unknowingly. They won't know they even used it, but they will be, suddenly my bank transfer is very fast. And this is how it will do it, RippleNet. They will handle probably billions every single day, which will and might use XRP to burn coins.
FX market. Here is a good piece of information why Ripple acquired Rail.
So Ripple have acquired a company called RailPay for $200 million. So Rail was one of the largest players in stablecoin for cross-border in business-to-business payments. I think they say that there's more than $3.6 billion of B2B payments moving through their pipes annually and growing very, very rapidly. It seems like B2B is this major theme in stablecoins. The Artemis report from a couple of months ago talks about B2B as being one of the fastest growing sort of cross-border payment types. So people see stablecoins, they assume consumer, but Kai, I'm interested in your perspectives here. B2B has always been a bit of a difficult one. Is this more in the SWIFT territory than in the consumer territory? And what are your reactions to this announcement?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind with this announcement is it seems like there's this broader trend of the convergence of stablecoin issuance and orchestration, where we've seen Circle started as a stablecoin issuer with USDC. Now they have the Circle payment network, and so they're getting more into orchestration. Bridge started as an orchestration provider. Now there's USDB. Bridge is starting to issue stablecoins. Ripple, you could argue, started in a way orchestration, but with XRP trying to get that adopted as a bridge currency. I'd argue that it hasn't really seen much adoption there. Then they moved on to stablecoin issuance. Now you have RLUSD. And then now they're going into orchestration specifically with stablecoins. And so it feels like there will be more companies that do both issuance and orchestration. And I think the question becomes which is it the value is being the issuer and orchestration is just how you try and drive more adoption of the stablecoin that you issue? Or is it the value is orchestration and issuance is kind of one piece that helps you better monetize how these two fit together, I think is going to be a really interesting question. And then what does it mean for the neutrality of, if you're going and trying to decide, which orchestration provider, to buy from, are you making a decision of what if you want an orchestration provider, but you want to use another stablecoin that is issued by a third party? Are they going to be steering you towards their stablecoin? Are there going to be economic incentives if you use their stablecoin inside their orchestration platform? So I think that's the big thing to look for of, how orchestration and issuance plays together, what the economic models are, between them. And so I think it's a very logical approach, from Ripple as part of, their strategy to scale RLUSD, and Rail is clearly kind of one of the orchestration providers that is in the mix there.
Good information to have, definitely. Also, we talk about RLUSD stablecoin, X cross-border institutional partnerships, SEC case cooked, asset regulations on the horizon, limited time left to accumulate XRP. A lot of people believe the same thing. People are running out of time to buy these assets. Hester Pierce also posted this. Last week, the SEC's case against Ripple was finally laid to rest. A welcome development for many reasons, including that the mines once...
So yeah, I feel like that, the reason they bought a $200 million company is because stablecoins are becoming regulated now, which means if they become regulated, the US government can make money from them, which means it kind of, this means new retail investors will be pushing into this market of crypto. And that being said, new market means that they are going to increase. Like, as he said, trillions and trillions coming in. So they literally bought out to speed up their development for stablecoins as well. Not just for Ripple, not just for banks, also for Ripple itself.
Occupied with litigation can now concentrate on creating a clear regulatory framework for crypto assets. Crypto mom Hester Pierce has always been a big proponent for crypto and adoption. I'm so glad she's been able to stay in that job and be the angel on the shoulder when Gary Gensler was in there doing all this evil shit to the crypto market. Hopefully she was there to keep him under wraps somewhat, right? Ripple and Stellar are accessories to messaging and payment systems. We've seen this. I talked a lot about this just briefly. I just want to show show you this. I also did a video about this new July Central Bank of Malaysia report claims XRP may replace bank deposits. That was a great video. Look out for that coming recently. And, you know, we do look towards stablecoins as the future of finance and how money will be moved around the planet. I do believe banks will go to Ripple and ask them to use their technology to build their own stablecoins. This could be a huge demand for XRP and, of course, the entire XRP ledger going forward. Tokenization of financial products, stocks, bonds, derivatives, real estate, and debt is just the beginning. We don't even know what we don't know at this point. A few years from now, they're going to be tokenizing things. We're like, really? You're gonna
I mean, like, this is going to be like 10 years on, but yeah, that is going to happen. Right now, next 2-3 years is already going to be stable coins, and they are prepared for that. That's why they bought the $200 million one, like the $200 million deal, is they're already transferring 10% of the total business to business stablecoin market, which is very small right now. But they're hoping more businesses will start to use stablecoins, which will just boost XRP Ripple, right?